is live webcast for me to try the new setup with some of the new technology that we've got around here before tomorrow's masterclass. I'm going to tell you about that in a second. Give me 1 second. Let me just make sure that everything's doing what it's supposed to do here. Um, there we go. Testing live audio and video. There we are. Hey, how about that? All right, I'm going to mute that audio. And let's see. All right, cool. Ooh, squeaky chair. Rule number one in the studio: don't use squeaky chairs. How about that? Anyway, if you're watching this, surprise! It's about almost 10 o'clock or around 10 o'clock on Thursday night, and we're trying out all of the technology we've been working on the last few days here at the studio for tomorrow's Drummers Home Studio Bootcamp. That's at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you haven't signed up for that, make sure you go to brianstevens.com/bootcamp. You can sign up for it there. If for some reason you can't be there live at the class, totally cool. If you sign up for the class, you get unlimited on-demand replays after the class. I'm going to take a drink. And you also get access. Let me mute this a second. You don't want to hear me drinking. You get unlimited on-demand replays of the masterclass. You also get all of the downloads that will be handouts, and we're going to give out some free software and all kinds of cool stuff. The only thing you won't get to take advantage of are the free giveaways. So we've got some great sponsors from companies that I've had long-standing relationships with. We're going to be giving away some things from Evans, from ProMart, from Peisty, from Waves Audio. Somebody's going to win a channel strip plugin that I really love a whole lot. And Session Ace will be giving away a free set for one lucky attendee to the masterclass. We'll be giving away one free set of EST dual driver in-ear monitors. So especially if you don't have any in-ear monitors at all, or if you need a great set of backups. I happen to think if you start using these will become your new ones, and you'll put your other ones as your backup, but that's just me. Anyway, I can't see everybody as they come in, but I can see your comments. So if you do put some comments, if you're on Facebook, on either of the pages there, if you're on YouTube, if you type into comments, I will see that, and I can respond to that. So hopefully you're hearing everything loud and clear. I hope so. I'm just going to leaf through and show you a few of the cameras. So one of the other cameras we've got over here for the masterclass is from the side, where you could see coming in at this angle behind the hi-hat, the kind of things that I'm doing. So when I'm playing over here, you can hear those things, and you can see them as well. So you get the idea. The idea is that I could talk to the camera right there, that you can see anything I'm doing on this side. And then we've also got a camera set up on this side, especially when we're talking about mics and mic setups. I can show you some things. We can take a look at where microphones are. We can take a look at placement, all that great kind of stuff. And again, if I'm playing, you can see some things from this side. So yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea. And normally, when we're doing the live streams, normally we have an overhead camera. So when we're doing live streams at drumcorner.net, for any of those live lessons and most of the courses, there's an overhead camera. But tomorrow, just for tomorrow, we're going to move that camera out front. It's a very special camera, and I'll show that to you now, where we actually back the camera up, and you can see a real wide, it's almost a fisheye. It is a fisheye, actually. You can see a wide-angle view of my room here at the studio. So you can see where the placement of the overhead microphones are. You can see where we're going to talk about bass drum mic placement, what bass drum mics I'm using. You can see treatments that I've got. We're going to talk about treatments in this room and why it sounds the way that it sounds. Sounds pretty dang good, I think. All those kind of things. And so really, I'm just jumping on tonight because I wanted to make sure that everything looked good and everything sounded good, and that that everything was working. We're not streaming the masterclass to Facebook or YouTube. I just want to be real clear about that. I've had people ask me about that. We're going to be doing it. If you look, I just did a quick text over at the top here, nothing fancy, that basically tells you if you go to brianstevens.com/bootcamp, you can sign up there. You can pay. Today we put the actual pay gateway at the bottom of the page, so it made it easier to pay if you people didn't know where to click to pay to get in. So it's at the bottom of the page. The cool thing about this and the interactivity with all this technology is it's as close as you and I can get to actually being in a room together to talk about these things. And for less than the cost of an hour lesson with me here at the studio, where you have to drive here and come, you get more than 2 hours of live masterclass. Well, we're going to talk about all kinds of things. And if you don't mind, I'm going to actually look at my own page where the copy is for everything so I can see what we're talking about. I mean, I know what we're talking about, but it helps if I tell you exactly what I know we're talking about. One thing we are going to be talking about is microphones. Now, whether or not you have a home studio already, or if you're thinking about putting a home studio in, if you're a drummer and you're just getting started with this, or if you got a practice room and you want to be able to record yourself, those are the kinds of things that we're going to talk about. The use cases we're going to talk about include drummers that want to record themselves practicing. That's a huge use case. I've got a room next door to this where I've got recording setups on 2 kits, and we actually can record during lessons that I give. I also record myself all the time while I'm actually practicing, so that I can play it back and listen to what's going on. So we're going to be talking about microphones, the kind of microphones that I use, which are wide and varied. I've got different mics around here. There's more than 100 mics here at the studio, and they're different use cases for them. There are certain times I use different kinds of bass drum mics. There are about 5 different sets of tom mics that I'll use depending on the kind of recording we're doing. Obviously, most of the time I'm using an SM57, which if we look over in that camera right there, you can see there's just a little SM57 right there. I use that probably 80% of the time on the snare drum. And so we'll talk about sync is good, audio is good. Thank you, JR. I appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much, man. The SM57 on top, I use that probably 80% of the time. I have a new mic that I've been working on that may become my permanent snare drum mic. That's something for next year to talk about. But then there's also a biodynamic mic that I use that's the same type of mic as an SM57, just a lot better. We'll talk about what I use underneath the snare drum, which tonight is different than what I'll probably use tomorrow or next week. We'll talk about the overhead mics that I use, because 80% of the time now I'm using these microphones that you see right on top here. And I don't think I have a picture of those, or maybe I do. Actually, I do. Hang on a second. Now that I've got all this technology sitting here, I can do. Anyway, so we'll talk about those microphones, why I use them. We'll talk about alternatives of what I may use up there and why I may use something different. I'm going to do a lot of playing in this master class, and I'm going to be playing. In fact, while we're talking about that, I'm going to shut this off. I'm going to turn on a couple of things I've got here. I'm going to turn on a couple of things with the Pro Tools just to make sure everything's working, just to see how the sound is, because I'm going to watch this back later, and just kind of see how everything's working. So give me a second here. So this is the iPad just doing some drum machine stuff here. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're just testing a few things out before tomorrow. So that's one of my drum machine apps that I'm probably going to roll out tomorrow and show you guys. That's going to work with some of our some of our exercises. Obviously, metronome is going to be a huge thing, you know. So when we're, ooh, turn the mic off. So that's the metronome. Cool. All right, so that's working real nice. I got one other drum machine I want to try for a second. I've got a ton of different drum machines that I use just on an iPad. You know, nothing super fancy, just on a stinking iPad. There's so many great stuff that let's just see what's loaded up here. Let's see. Oh, this drum sound would work pretty good for this, I think. Turn it up just a little bit. All right. Yeah, I have to remember to turn off my mic. Yeah, that is literally just whatever was in iMachine loaded up from whatever. That may be one of the things that I tried out tomorrow. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about metronomes and drum machines and working with those things. One of the things that I'm going to be talking about, I know for sure, is specifically working with click tracks. There's one of the tracks that I've got lined up for tomorrow that I'll play for you for a second. Let's listen to it. Turn the click on, Brian. That's one of the things I've got lined up to talk about with you tomorrow. That's really reminiscent of some of the things that I get when people are in the writing phase of tracks where they're, you know, maybe more than halfway done with something, and they want to go ahead and get some live drums on there and see where it takes the thing. You'll notice it's a pretty dull click track. It's just the Uri sound on quarter notes. Well, what do I do with that to make that more interesting? Give me something to groove along with, and maybe actually help me impose a vibe on there that the tracks themselves don't do. And I'm going to show you those things tomorrow. I'm going to show you what I do just from my seat, things that I can do really quick, boom, 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 right here with my Pro Tools rig, that I can make that click track a lot more interesting and make it something more fun to play along with and easier to lock in with, really. So that's one of the things we'll talk about. We'll talk about not only setting up click tracks, but how to make things that actually help you play better when you're playing along to some stuff that's already been laid down. And speaking of tracking some drums on some things that have been laid down, one of the things I'm going to do in the second hour of our masterclass is I'm actually going to take you in on a live tracking session. So I've got a tune that I'm producing for a singer-songwriter. We've got what's called the guide tracks already done, which is a drum machine with a basic keyboard part and most of the lyric. Even though the lyric's not completely finished, the melody is pretty well sussed out. So there's a little bit of scatting where there's going to be lyrics later. I would say more than half of the tunes that I track drums on every single week are done that way, where people haven't completely finished the idea. They're just in this creative mode where they know it's a great idea. They need something to really help them push it to the next level. So they'll send me whatever they've got. I put drums and sometimes percussion on top of that, and that takes it in a direction. And in the case of stuff that I'm producing, we'll just build on top of those guide tracks. And so I'll put my drums, then I'll have Sam Sims or Joe Reeder or Chris Dale or some other great bass player here in town, put some bass on top of that, and then we'll work on keys or guitar and eventually vocals. For this particular song, I'm actually having the horns done in Nashville. The singer-songwriter has a group of buddies up there that are horn players, a horn section, and they're actually going to write a horn arrangement for it, and they're going to record it there because of COVID. They're going to record it up there, and it makes it a lot easier because I don't have to take a couple of days off and go up there. So I'm actually going to track those drums live in the boot camp. So you're going to see what my process is for putting that stuff together so that I can track some drums, and some of the decisions that I make. I may track this thing one time and decide, I need to change the ride some. I may need to change this. We're going to tune something different. I'm going to actually let you in on that process. That's what we're going to do in this boot camp. And with the boot camp, there'll be a chat room there that you can ask questions. The way that we've set this thing up, there's sections that you can go to either during or after the master class, where you can look at different worksheets or download things afterwards. And like I said before, we're going to be giving away all kinds of cool prizes from ProMark, Evans, Peisty, Waves Audio, and one lucky person is going to get a set of the EST dual driver in-ear monitors. So, but you have to be there live in the masterclass to win a prize. So that's all I got to say about that. I'm going to play for just a little bit longer just to check a few more things, probably go through a few of these cameras, make sure everything's working correctly, and just kind of make sure that we're good to go, man. That's really all I'm doing tonight. I just wanted to let you in on part of this process and let you see too, like, this isn't a Zoom call. This isn't a Zoom call. This isn't me sitting with my webcam in the corner of a bedroom. This is me in my studio where I work every single day doing all kinds of cool stuff, where I get to show it to you. I get to show you how I do this stuff and why I make the decisions that I make. And so we're going to play a lot of drums. You're going to see a lot of drums. And you're going to see a lot more of this room than people generally get to see on any of the videos that I've made. So we're going to talk about this room and how it's set up and why things are the way that they are, so that hopefully you can take all of that information and you can either put together your first home studio, you can improve the one you've got. Maybe you have a little studio in a bedroom in your house and you want to try and bring it to the next level. You'll be able to take a lot of this information that we're talking about, and I don't know, I didn't cover most of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about drum heads and cymbal choices and some tuning things. We're going to talk about mic preamps and outboard processing. I'm going to show you what I use, what these microphones go into to get the sound that I'm getting on this particular day. I'm going to show you a little bit more about my studio and explain some of the choices that I made. And that's the other tier of setup that we're going to be talking about is if you're a working professional drummer and you're trying to set up a professional quality home studio to where you can do things that'll make it out onto digital releases and albums or TV and radio commercials or music for film. If you want those kinds of setups, I'm going to give you some idea, because that was the idea with this place, is to be able to do all those kinds of projects at a really high level, but never really have to leave home. So we're going to talk about some playing tips and some tricks and all that kind of stuff. And hang on. Oh, dude, thanks, JR. I may take you up on that. Let's see, playing techniques. Yeah, so some sonic tricks that I do, some things that I do to appliques that I use on drums and cymbals to get different sounds. We're gonna talk about that stuff. We're also gonna I'm gonna do something that I haven't done before in this kind of setting. And let me click a thing over here, and it's gonna get me over there. I'm actually gonna take you and let you see with my own particular Pro Tools rig. You're actually going to get to see my setup. So one of the things we're going to do in the masterclass is I'm going to take you through, and I don't have it set up right now because we're going to do it during the class, but I'm going to show you how I set up my Pro Tools sessions and how I have these things done, so that I sit in this chair or on this throne and I do all the work that I do. In this case, I've got 6 different tunes lined up, or maybe there's 6 tunes. 6 tunes lined up that are all in a row here. This is real reminiscent of what I do when I'm working. If I'm doing a bunch of things for one person, maybe it's in one session, or I may close one session down and open another. But I can do that all from my seat. I've got things set up here now where once I get sounds dialed in the other room, I never need to go into the control room to do anything except maybe adjust a few levels. So I'm going to take you through, and I'm going to let you see things that I use. I'll just pull one thing up here real quick while we're talking about it. Tools that I use, like, wait for it, this Shep's Omni Channel. We're going to use the Shep's Omni Channel a little bit tomorrow, and I'm going to show you how I use it to get some of the sounds that I get. We can't really do a full-blown mixing class, but we can certainly get in there. Oh, I need to change that. Oop. Change that resolution. Give me 1 second. We're going to unlock it first, and then we are going to fit the screen. Sorry about that. I need to check that tomorrow. All right. So yeah. So this is one of those where one of the things where I'll show you how I use a channel strip like this to get some of the drum sounds that I get. And once I show you this, it'll make a lot of sense why I get the kind of sounds that I get here in my home studio and why I make the choices that I make. So using plugins like this, it really knowing how things are going to be mixed afterwards really helps me a lot in terms of knowing what I need to do to capture the sound that I'm getting. And I'll give you just a few little samples of some sounds, minus the squeaky drum throne, so you can just kind of hear, what things sound like. So that's a bass drum. Now it's a 1957 Gretsch Round Badge 3-ply. And this is a Gretsch 5x14 aluminum tuned pretty low. Going for a real thwacky kind of sound. But I could also tune it up and get some nice crack out of it. The toms, 13 and 16-inch toms. And then the cymbals we won't bother to do tonight, but I'll definitely talk about those tomorrow. Or right now I've got mostly hanging the Peisty Formula 602 Modern Essentials. And you can kind of see this from the side there. Pretty good look at those right there. These are some amazing cymbals, probably my favorite cymbals to play with live and to track with. So we're going to be talking about those cymbals, and actually I'll probably swap those out for a few other Peisty cymbals for one of the tracks that we're going to be working with. Again, we're talking about sonic choices. I'm going to show you a few sonic choices. We'll talk about software. I'll show you my screen. I'll show you a bunch of things. So if you haven't signed up for the masterclass yet, you just go to brianstevens.com/bootcamp. All the information is there down at the bottom of the page now, because a few people had problems finding that. At the bottom of the page is the payment gateway. You can pay for the masterclass right there. You'll get your ticket. And if you can't make it live, I keep reiterating this because the live component is so that we can talk and so that you can ask questions and we can have a back and forth. But if you can't make the live masterclass, you get unlimited on-demand live replay or unlimited on-demand replays for life. That's what I meant to say. You'll have lifetime access to that entire masterclass, all of the downloads, and all of the free plugins and things that we're going to be giving away if you attend the masterclass. So that's everything that I've got. I wanted to test out the system, make sure that everything was in sync really well. We were having problems earlier with another platform we were using to check sync, and so I just want to make sure that was happening. And so anyway, I hope you dug this. If you're if you can't come, by all means, please sign up because you can get all that stuff afterwards. It's just the live part you're going to miss out on. And it's less than the cost of actually coming and getting an hour with me here at the studio. It's a great deal, and we're going to cover a ton. It really is going to be a boot camp. I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. And because of the way that this class is set up on my Drum Corner platform, my drum school that's online at drumcorner.net. There are going to be ways for you to send feedback to me. You can actually direct message through the platform and ask questions even after the masterclass is over. So a lot of interactivity, and plus it'll get you introduced to the platform. You can kind of see where I'm going to be doing most of my digital teaching now going forward. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and hopefully you enjoyed this little walkthrough and test. And thanks for everybody who gave me some feedback. JR, appreciate you, bud. Eric, thanks for giving me some feedback. For everybody that tuned in, thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at the Drummers Home Studio Bootcamp. Go register, just like the graphic says right there, brianstevens.com/bootcamp. It's not too late to register. And like I said on my live thing yesterday, I had a few people that had messaged and, had basically said, look, COVID's kind of got me strapped for cash. $50 is a little more than I can afford. I want you to have this information. I want to be able to share this stuff with you. So if you're in a tough spot in a financial way, feel free to reach out on a DM and just say, hey, man, could I get a discount code for the masterclass? I'll be more than happy to do that for you, because I'd rather have you there and interacting and learning and taking this stuff and being able to do some things for yourself than just miss out on it completely. So that's all I got for you. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you again when I see you.